I knew something was wrong the moment the room went quiet. There I was, standing in the middle of our company's annual gala, spotlights sweeping across the hall, champagne glasses clinking, and suddenly every pair of eyes shifted toward me. Not with admiration. Not with curiosity. But with pity. Then the projector flickered, and a video began to play. My face. My voice. My supposed confession. A deepfake video claiming I'd been stealing from the company for years. Have you ever felt your soul leave your body for just a second? Yeah, that's what it felt like. People gasped. My colleagues whispered. And on the other end of the room, with a glass of red wine and a smile she didn't bother to hide, stood the woman who orchestrated everything, my boss, Raina Vale. If you've ever been betrayed by someone who pretended to mentor you. If you've ever been underestimated or erased. Hit that like button, because this story is for you. And drop your own story in the comments. You never know who your truth might help. But let me back up. Because revenge, real revenge, isn't loud. It's quiet, patient, precise. And mine? Well, it started long before that humiliating night. Intro, who I am. My name is Raina, I'm 29 years old, and at the time of all this, I was a data analyst living in Brookville, a mid-sized city filled with glass towers, startup dreams, and more office politics than anyone wants to admit. I grew up quiet. Observant. The kind of kid teachers forgot to call on, but trusted to hold the keys to the classroom. I liked watching people more than talking to them. Not in a creepy way, just noticing things they thought nobody saw. That quiet nature followed me into adulthood. No matter where I worked, I was the calm one, the reliable one, the one who keeps everything running smoothly. But here's the thing about quiet people. We see everything. We remember everything. And one day, all those little observations become the sharpest tools you've ever held. I just didn't know how important that skill would become until I met her. Toxic person intro, enter Raina Vale. Raina Vale. My manager. My mentor. My greatest mistake. At first, she seemed brilliant, one of those magnetic leaders who walked into a room like she owned the air in it. People rushed to please her. She spoke in compliments coded with subtle commands. Raina, you're so detail-oriented. Do you mind handling this part too? Raina, you're so calm under pressure. I knew you wouldn't say no. Raina, you're just so dependable. Honestly, you're my secret weapon. I didn't realize it at the time, but those weren't compliments. They were hooks. Raina had this way of praising you into servitude. But the moment she saw me as a threat, when upper management started noticing my ideas, her tone shifted, and the real Raina emerged. It started small. A delayed email. My name missing from a project credit. A meeting invite that accidentally didn't get sent to me. There must have been a glitch, she'd say with a too-sweet smile. But glitches don't happen every week. One morning, Raina called me into a strategy session. I'd prepared the entire proposal, late nights, early mornings, the whole thing. She presented it to the team as if she'd created it herself. Every slide. Every number. My words, coming out of her mouth. And when the director complimented the work, she glanced at me with a smirk only I saw. That was the first seed of resentment she planted. A month later, during my evaluation, Raina circled one word again and again. Passive. Passive? I ran half the department's analytics workload. I saved her from multiple mistakes. I responded to emails she ignored. I fixed her numbers before presentations. But not once, did she acknowledge it. Instead, she told me, "Raina, leadership requires presence. Confidence. You're good, but you're forgettable. Forgettable." She said it like it was a compliment. One Friday, she assigned me a time-sensitive analysis. I finished it. Sent it. Confirmed delivery. Monday morning? She summoned me to her office like a thundercloud. "Raina," she sighed dramatically, "you didn't send the report." I had to redo everything myself. I pulled up my sent messages. It was there. Clear as day. But she waved her hand. "I'm not here to argue. Just try to keep up." Try to keep up? That's when I knew. This wasn't incompetence. This was strategy. She wanted me insecure. Dependent. Silent. She wanted me to stay small. But life doesn't always go according to her script. Big turning point. A few months later came the annual gala, the night promotions, bonuses, and new leadership roles were announced. And I was up for a major promotion. A life-changing one. Serena knew it. And she wasn't about to let forgettable, passive Raina rise above her. So when that deepfake video played, my face confessing to embezzlement, my supposed signature on falsified withdrawals, the room erupted in whispers. Is that real? I thought she was so quiet. She always did work late. Maybe she was covering something up. My breath froze in my chest. I looked at Serena across the room. She lifted her glass toward me, as if in a silent toast. That was the moment something inside me snapped, but not in the way she expected. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't run. I smiled back. Because while everybody else thought my life had just been burned to the ground, I knew something Serena didn't know. Quiet people don't make noise. We make plans. And she had just handed me the perfect opportunity to execute mine. I left the gala early. Not defeated. Not broken. Focused. My mind sharpened like a blade. If Serena thought she'd buried me, she clearly didn't know who she was dealing with. Deepfakes leave digital fingerprints. Emails leave metadata. Financial systems log every permission change. And people, especially arrogant ones, leave patterns of behavior. I started pulling threads that night. One by one. And by the time I finished gathering what I needed, Serena Vale wouldn't just lose her promotion. She'd lose the very power she worshipped. This wasn't just revenge. This was reclamation. The night of the gala, after that humiliating deepfake video, I didn't sleep. But I didn't cry either. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, the soft hum of the refrigerator the only sound in my apartment. The city outside was quiet, streetlights glowing through my window like distant stars. It was the kind of silence most people found unsettling. But for me, silence is where I do my best work. If Serena wanted a war, she chose the wrong battlefield. She fights with manipulation and theatrics. I fight with information. And information never lies. First, I downloaded the deepfake file from the gala's livestream archive. Our marketing team uploaded the whole event online, not realizing they had preserved a piece of evidence for me. I ran it through a forensic analysis tool. And just like I expected, there it was. A watermark signature embedded in the metadata. Not a name, but an IP origin node bouncing from a server in Brookville. A server owned by a small video editing vendor frequently used by only one department. the department Serena oversaw. My heartbeat stayed steady. This was just the first breadcrumb. I opened our company's internal financial system next, scanning logs from the month leading up to the accusation. My permissions were restricted now. Someone had revoked half of my access during the gala fallout, but they forgot something. Quiet analysts know where the back doors are. And I had built half of those reports. I searched for unusual permission changes. Bingo. 2 weeks earlier, someone with admin rights had temporarily granted Serena access to files only auditors usually touched. Just for an hour. Just long enough to craft fake withdrawal reports with my name on them. But who gave her that access? The log showed a user ID. A long string of numbers. I copied it, ran it through an old cross-reference script I wrote for fun one day. And there it was. The admin was her assistant, Dylan. An ambitious guy who depended on Serena the way a plant depends on sunlight. Always seeking her approval. Always eager to handle things for her. I added his name to my mental board. But digital evidence was only half the battle. People leave trails too. So I started observing, quietly, of course. At the office the next morning, people flinched when they saw me. Some whispered. Some avoided eye contact completely. And Serena? She played the concerned mentor beautifully. Raina, she said softly when she saw me, I'm so disappointed. I always believed in you. I'll try to convince HR to be lenient. Lenient? For a crime she fabricated? Oscar-worthy. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I watched her. She was too confident. Too relaxed. People who tell the truth don't watch the room the way she did, scanning faces, measuring reactions, calculating narratives. She was waiting for the story to settle, for the gossip to grow roots so deep I could never pull them out. But I had my own plan. Around noon, I slipped into the data center where old CCTV archives were stored. Most people didn't even know the company kept non-public camera footage long-term. I plugged in my credentials. Access denied. Interesting. Someone had changed my clearance level again. But they forgot one thing. CCTV footage also had local backups, and the technician who maintained those? A quiet guy named Marcel who liked solving logic puzzles during lunch. We weren't friends, but we shared a mutual respect for silence. When I approached him, I simply said, I think something bad is happening. And I think you know it too. He hesitated for only a moment before nodding slowly. Within minutes, he opened the archive for me. Footage from the week before the gala showed something odd. Serena entering the restricted lab area. At 11:47 p.m. Wearing gloves. Carrying a USB drive. She didn't notice one camera tucked in the corner, most people never did, but it saw everything. I felt a chill, but not from fear. From clarity. I needed proof. Real proof. Something undeniable. So I did something bold for a passive, forgettable employee. I invited Serena to lunch. She accepted instantly, of course she did. She wanted to savor her victory. We sat at a sleek restaurant overlooking the plaza. She ordered wine. I ordered tea. She looked at me with false sympathy. You know, Raina, sometimes people self-sabotage without realizing it. I stayed quiet. She smirked. And sometimes, when someone gets too ambitious, the universe finds a way to humble them. There it was. Her mask slipping. I pressed gently. Is that what happened to me? She raised her glass. I suppose you could say that. She thought she was in control of this conversation. She didn't realize I had my smartwatch recording audio the whole time. Not illegal, our state allows recordings as long as one party consents. And I consented. Her "I suppose you could say that" would later become my favorite line. 2 days later, HR called me in to discuss next steps regarding my termination. Perfect. But before that meeting, I needed one more piece of the puzzle. I checked the security feed metadata again. There was a 14-minute gap on the night Serena entered the restricted area. A blackout. A manual blackout. Someone on the security team must have helped her. I searched badge logs and found an anomaly. A badge belonging to Luke, a junior guard who had recently purchased a car far nicer than his salary allowed. It didn't take long to figure out why. Serena paid him off. I didn't need him to confess. Just the logs were enough. And now, with everything collected. Digital evidence. CCTV clips. Audio admission. Financial logs. Badge anomalies. I had enough to end Serena's entire empire. But I didn't want to destroy her. No. I wanted something better. I wanted her exposed, slowly, publicly, undeniably. I wanted her to watch her own collapse. The night before my HR meeting, I sat on my balcony watching the city glow beneath me. The air smelled like rain. I whispered to myself, "You underestimate quiet people, Serena. And that was your first mistake." I placed all my evidence into a neatly organized folder, digital and printed copies. I didn't plan to attack. I planned to reveal. There's a difference. One is violence. The other is truth. And truth, when delivered at the right moment, hits harder than any weapon ever could. Tomorrow, Serena Vale would learn what quiet power really looks like. HR meetings are usually quiet, polite, predictable. But the moment I walked into that conference room, I knew this one would be anything but. 3 people sat across from me. Marissa, the HR director with a stiff smile. John, the compliance officer. And unexpectedly, Serena herself. Of course she was there. She wanted to witness my downfall firsthand. She folded her hands on the table and gave me that false expression she'd perfected, the one that said "I'm just here to help," while her eyes said "You're done." "Raina," Marissa began gently, "we've reviewed some serious allegations. This meeting is your opportunity to respond before final decisions are made." I nodded calmly. Serena tilted her head. "We just want the truth." The irony nearly made me laugh. But instead, I pulled a small folder from my bag and placed it on the table. "I want the truth too." Their expressions shifted, slightly, almost imperceptibly, but I noticed every flicker. Quiet people always do. I began with the easiest piece. "The video shown at the gala," I said, sliding a printed sheet across the table, "was digitally manipulated." Marissa frowned. "Do you have evidence of that?" "I do." Page 2 includes an analysis showing the watermark from the editing service used. I paused, watching their reactions. It's the same vendor Serena's department uses for training videos. Serena's smile didn't crack, yet, but her fingers tightened around her pen. "That doesn't mean anything," she said lightly. "Coincidence?" "Possibly," I replied. "But the metadata also shows the file originated from a workstation inside the East Building. That workstation belongs to your assistant, Dylan." That landed. Marissa's head snapped towards Serena. John started taking notes. "This is ridiculous," Serena said, but her voice was one notch higher. "Good." Next, I pulled out another document. "These are system logs from our financial database. They show that my account had unauthorized changes made at 2:17 a.m. 1 week before the gala." John leaned forward. "Unauthorized changes?" "Yes. Someone used admin credentials to access my profile and forge withdrawal approvals. That admin login belongs to Dylan." Serena interjected sharply, "My assistant handles many tasks." "That doesn't prove anything." I smiled politely. "It does when combined with this." I slid the next sheet over. It was from my program that cross-referenced activity patterns. Every suspicious access happened within 10 minutes of Serena's badge entering the analytics floor after hours. John and Marissa exchanged a long, meaningful look. Serena finally shifted in her seat. The first crack. I opened my laptop. "Now, I want to show you something." I played the CCTV clip Marcel pulled for me. There was Serena. Late at night. Entering the restricted room. Carrying a USB drive. Wearing gloves. John paused the video. "Why were you in that room, Ms. Vale?" Serena forced a laugh. "This could be edited." I leaned forward. "There's a second angle." And I played the next clip, one she clearly didn't know existed. Her expression faltered. This was no longer a performance. This was panic. Then came the finishing blow. "Lastly," I said softly, "I want you to hear something." I played the audio from our lunch. Her voice, clear and unmistakable. Sometimes, when someone gets too ambitious, the universe finds a way to humble them. I suppose you could say that. The silence that followed was heavy. Dense. Electric. John closed his notebook. Marissa's face hardened. And Serena? She looked like someone who had just realized the trap she built for me was actually for herself. "Raina," Marissa said slowly, "why didn't you bring this forward sooner?" "Because I knew no one would believe me without irrefutable proof," I answered honestly. "People like Serena build networks of loyalty and fear. I had to be careful." Marissa nodded, a deep, understanding nod. Then she turned to Serena. "Ms. Vale, until we complete a full investigation, we are suspending you effective immediately." Serena shot to her feet. "You can't be serious. She fabricated this. She set me up. I have been the backbone of this department." But no one was listening. For the first time, her voice sounded small. Shrill. Lost. Security was called to escort her out. As she was led past me, she hissed quietly. "This isn't over, Raina. You think you've won? You don't know what I'm capable of." I met her eyes without flinching. "Neither do you." By the time I returned to my desk, whispers had already begun. "Did you hear? HR escorted Serena out. They said it wasn't Raina after all." I knew something was off about Serena. She was too perfect. Funny how quickly loyalty evaporates when truth shows up. Colleagues who avoided me the day before suddenly appeared with supportive smiles. "Raina, we always believed in you." Lies. But I didn't correct them. Quiet power doesn't seek validation. It seeks justice. That afternoon, Dylan was led into HR too. Then Luke from security. The dominoes Serena set up so carefully were falling, one after another. All because she underestimated a quiet girl who paid attention. 2 days later, someone knocked on my apartment door. When I opened it, I found a woman in her early 50s, dressed in a simple coat, holding a small envelope. "Are you Raina?" she asked. "Yes." She exhaled shakily. "My name is Clara Vale. I'm Serena's mother." My breath caught. What could she possibly want? She held out the envelope. "I think you need to see this." Inside was a handwritten letter, dated 3 years earlier, addressed to Serena from a former employee. A whistleblower. Someone Serena had also sabotaged. Someone whose career she destroyed. Someone who disappeared from the industry entirely. Clara whispered, "I found this among her old things." I didn't know. I didn't understand who my daughter had become. "Please, help make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." My chest tightened. Revenge wasn't about crushing Serena. It was about making sure her cycle ended. And this letter? This was the final piece I didn't even know I needed. I thanked Clara, closed the door gently, and sat on my couch staring at the letter. This wasn't just a personal vendetta anymore. This was systemic, patterned, deliberate. Serena had destroyed more than just my reputation. She had operated like this for years. Quiet power isn't about screaming your rage. It's about choosing how to use your truth. And now? I knew exactly who needed to see everything. The board. Compliance. Legal. And the whistleblower network. Serena wanted to humble me. But I was about to dismantle everything she built. Not with hatred. With truth. And truth lasts longer. The next morning, the office felt different. Lighter. It's strange how one person's toxicity can weigh down an entire building without anyone consciously realizing it. With Serena gone, at least temporarily, the air seemed easier to breathe. Conversations were less stiff. People smiled more genuinely. But I didn't mistake the quiet relief for victory. Not yet. Because exposing Serena in that HR meeting was only the beginning. Her network, her influence, her manipulations, those didn't vanish just because she got escorted out. Villains like Serena rarely crumble all at once. They crack slowly. And I intended to make sure every fracture became permanent. It took less than 24 hours for my evidence package to reach the executive board. Not because I sent it to them, but because Marissa did. She called me into her office and closed the door behind us. "Raina," she said, her voice firm but not unkind, "we've reviewed what you gave us. This goes far beyond a personal dispute." I nodded. "I know. This could expose the company to serious liability. The board wants to meet with you directly." My stomach tightened, not with fear, but with awareness. This was bigger than office gossip. Bigger than Serena's personal vendetta. A corporate scandal was forming, and I was standing in the center of it. But for once, I felt steady. The boardroom was a cold place. All glass, chrome, and carefully designed intimidation. 7 board members sat around the long table, including the CEO. Serena's empty chair at the far end felt symbolic. I took my seat, laid out my documents, and began walking them through everything. The deepfake analysis. The permission logs. The CCTV timestamps. The recorded lunch conversation. The new evidence from Clara, the mother. The whistleblower letter. Every detail. Every connection. Every thread that tied Serena's web together. Halfway through, one board member rubbed his temples. Another started shaking her head slowly. The CEO's expression darkened with each page. When I finished, no one spoke for a moment. Then the CEO said, "Ms. Raina, I want to apologize. This should never have happened. To anyone." His voice wasn't dramatic. It was ashamed. "Thank you," I replied quietly. "But what matters now is preventing it from happening again." He nodded. And then he said the words I didn't expect. "We're opening a full-scale investigation into Serena Vale. Effective immediately. And we'd like your continued cooperation." That afternoon, news spread faster than wildfire. Compliance began interviewing employees. IT traced years of suspicious activity. Legal unearthed non-disclosure agreements Serena forced departing staff to sign. And the whistleblower letter? That opened an entirely new case file. Meanwhile, the staff Serena once ruled with fear began telling their own stories. She pressured me to falsify metrics. She took credit for my project. She threatened my job if I didn't cover for her mistakes. She said she'd ruin me if I spoke against her. It all came pouring out. And I realized something. People don't stay silent because they don't see evil. They stay silent because they don't think anyone will believe them. And now that one person had been believed, others finally found their voices. Serena's empire wasn't just cracking. It was collapsing. A week later, I received an unexpected email. Board hearing, attendance required. Subject, final review of Serena Vale investigation. I didn't know if she'd be there. But she was. When I entered the room, she was sitting at the table, disheveled, anxious, eyes ringed with exhaustion. Gone was the polished, untouchable executive mask. She looked human. Almost small. Her gaze met mine, but not with hatred this time. With fear. The CEO began the meeting. "Ms. Vale, we have concluded our investigation. The findings are extensive." He gestured to a thick binder. "Your actions have endangered this company, violated multiple ethical policies, and harmed several employees." Serena's voice cracked. "You're going to fire me? Over her?" She pointed at me with shaking fingers. "No," the CEO said calmly. "Not because of Raina. Because of your own actions." She simply revealed them. Serena's lower lip trembled. "You don't understand, I did everything I had to. This company rewards results, not effort. If I didn't fight, someone else would have taken everything I earned." I spoke then, softly but clearly. "Serena, no one was trying to take anything from you. You destroyed people just to stand taller. You mistook cruelty for strength." Her eyes flashed. "I made you," she said. "Without me, you're nothing." I stood. "No. You saw my quiet as weakness. But quiet is just where strength prepares." Her face fell completely. The CEO closed the file. "Serena Vale, your employment is terminated effective immediately. You will no longer be permitted on company premises. And we are forwarding several findings to regulatory authorities." Her breath hitched. That was the moment the truth fully hit her. Her career wasn't just damaged. It was over. And I didn't feel triumph. I felt release. The room emptied, leaving only Serena and me. She whispered, "Why did you do it?" I met her gaze. "Because someone had to stop you." She didn't answer. Security arrived moments later and escorted her out for the final time. In the weeks that followed, the office transformed. People worked without fear of sudden explosions or strategic sabotage. The anxiety that once hovered over every meeting evaporated. But I wasn't magically restored to my former position. Rebuilding trust takes time. Restoring reputation takes patience. The difference now was this. I wasn't fighting alone anymore. The board publicly cleared my name. My colleagues apologized. Even the CEO took me aside one day and said, "You were brave. Quiet, but brave. Quiet and brave." I liked the sound of that. One morning, I got a call from an unknown number. "Hello?" I answered. "Is this Raina?" "My name is Alara Frost. I run an ethics and analytics division at a research institute. I've heard about your case from the whistleblower network. I'd love to talk to you about a potential position." I blinked in surprise. "You want to hire me?" "Yes," she said warmly. "We need people who can detect manipulation patterns, deepfakes, and data abuse. People who see what others overlook. People like me." The timing felt poetic. Circular. Perfect. But I didn't give an answer yet. I needed time. Time to breathe. Time to reflect. Time to reclaim myself. Serena had taken enough from me. I wanted the rest of my decisions to be mine alone. That evening, I walked through the city as the sun dipped behind the skyscrapers, painting the sky with gold and lavender. I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the humiliation, the unraveling, the truth, the justice. Revenge wasn't the burning fire I once imagined. It was quiet. Steady. Warm. Like finally stepping into sunlight after months in the cold. My story wasn't over. But the chapter with Serena? That one had closed beautifully. Next. I needed to decide what kind of life I wanted to build next. Free from manipulation. Free from fear. Free from being underestimated. And for the first time in a long while, I felt ready. The days after Serena's downfall felt surreal. Not triumphant. Not glamorous. Just peaceful. It's strange how much noise one person can create, how their absence can change the entire rhythm of a place. For the first time in months, I didn't wake up with dread twisting in my stomach. I didn't flinch at email notifications. I didn't feel the sharp sting of being watched, judged, or silently sabotaged. Instead, I woke up to sunlight. Warm mornings. Stillness. And the quiet realization that I had my life back. But something inside me had shifted. I wasn't the same Raina who kept her head down, who blended into shadows, who let others decide her worth. I didn't want to return to the version of myself Serena tried to shape. I wanted to become someone new. As weeks passed, small changes rippled through the company. People who once avoided me now approached with genuine warmth. "Raina, glad you're still here. You deserve something better after everything. Your strength inspired a lot of us." I didn't need their validation. But hearing it didn't hurt. Then came the real surprise. One afternoon, Marissa from HR called me into her office again. Her tone was different this time, brighter, almost hopeful. "Raina," she said, "we've opened a new role, internal integrity analyst. Someone who identifies manipulation patterns, internal ethics risks, and behavioral anomalies. You'd be leading a small team." I blinked. "You're offering me the position?" Yes, she said with a genuine smile. You uncovered what our current system missed. You see what others don't. It's a gift. A gift. No one had ever described my quiet attentiveness that way. I didn't answer immediately. I needed space to think, something I was finally allowed to have. But it felt like a door had opened. One I didn't expect. One I had earned. A few days later, I got another message, this time from a person whose name I recognized from the letter Serena's mother gave me. Evelyn Hart. The woman Serena destroyed 3 years earlier. She wanted to meet. We arranged to talk at a cafe on the edge of the city, a soft-looking place with tall windows, mismatched chairs, and the warm smell of cinnamon drifting through the air. When she walked in, she looked older than her age, not physically, but emotionally. Like someone who had carried a weight far too heavy for far too long. "Raina?" she asked gently. I stood, and she hugged me almost immediately. Not tightly. Just long enough to say she understood. When we sat down, she said, "Thank you." For what? I asked. For finishing what I couldn't. I gazed at her for a moment. I'm sorry Serena hurt you. She nodded. People like her, they're good at choosing targets. They pick the ones who won't fight back loudly. The quiet ones. The thoughtful ones. The ones who don't believe in playing dirty. She looked at me with a soft, sad smile. But sometimes, the quiet ones rise. I felt something warm in my chest. A recognition. A shared history of survival. We talked for hours, about rebuilding, about healing, about how silence isn't weakness but potential energy waiting for the right moment. Before leaving, Evelyn squeezed my hand. Whatever you choose next, let it be yours. Not a reaction to her. A creation of you. Those words stayed with me. I didn't expect to hear from Serena again. But of course, life enjoys its curveballs. One night, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. A message. From her. Serena. I hope you're happy. You ruined everything. I stared at the words. Not with fear. Not with anger. Just clarity. I typed a single reply. Me. I didn't ruin anything. I revealed it. You ruined it yourself. And then, I blocked her number. Not out of spite. But because I didn't need her voice in my life anymore. Even digitally. She had taken enough space in my mind. That chapter was closed. Now the question remained. Stay at the company and take the new position? Or accept Alara's offer at the Research Institute? Both paths offered something valuable. One offered stability and recognition. The other offered meaning and growth. I took 2 full weeks to think. I journaled. I talked to friends. I even took long walks around the lake where the city lights shimmered on the water like scattered stars. Then one morning, I woke up with the answer already forming quietly in my heart. I emailed Alara. Subject, position acceptance. Alara. I'd like to accept the role. Thank you for believing in what others overlooked. Raina. When she replied, her message said, "Welcome to your new beginning." And that's exactly what it felt like. A beginning. My final day at the company wasn't emotional or dramatic. I walked through the halls that once felt suffocating and realized I no longer carried the weight of fear, self-doubt, or restraint. People hugged me. Wished me well. Thanked me again for what I'd done. Even Dylan, Serena's assistant, approached me quietly. He looked pale, shaken by everything that came out in the investigation. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "She said if I didn't help, she'd make sure I never worked again." I nodded. I didn't forgive him. But I understood the fear he lived in. Fear Serena manufactured. "Learn from it," I said softly. "Don't let anyone control you like that again." He swallowed hard and nodded. I gathered my belongings, just a few things. A plant. A framed quote on my desk that read, "Quiet does not mean invisible." I smiled at it. It wasn't just a quote anymore. It was my truth. I turned off my monitor, straightened my chair, and walked out of the office for the last time. My new job started in a week. A job built from truth, resilience, and the ashes of a storm I never asked for, but survived anyway. I didn't know what the future held. But for once, I wasn't afraid of it. Because sometimes revenge isn't the fire that burns your enemies. Sometimes revenge is simply this: living a life they no longer have access to. A life built on your terms. In your timing. With your quiet power. And mine? It was only just beginning. My first day at the Research Institute didn't feel like stepping into a job. It felt like stepping into a future I had never allowed myself to imagine. The office was warm, filled with plants and sunlight. People spoke in soft tones, not whispers of gossip but thoughtful discussions about ethics, innovation, and protecting vulnerable data systems from misuse. It didn't smell like fear. Or competition. Or pressure wrapped in fake compliments. It smelled like possibility. Alara greeted me in the entryway with a bright, genuine smile. "Raina, you made the right choice," she said as she handed me my badge. "You're not here because of what you survived. You're here because of what you can build." Her words felt like soil, nutrient-rich, ready for something new to grow. I breathed in deeply. And for the first time since everything with Serena began, I felt truly free. My new position was called Behavioral Compliance Strategist, a fancy title that basically meant I was the person who analyzed digital manipulation attempts, ethical inconsistencies, suspicious internal behavior, and synthetic media threats. In other words, I used the exact skills Serena underestimated. I ran reports, identified patterns, spotted abnormalities others overlooked, built tools to detect deepfake signatures, helped shape policies that protected future employees from people like her. And not once did Alara try to diminish me. Not once did anyone take credit for my work. Not once did somebody call me passive or forgettable. At the Institute, quiet wasn't dismissed. Quiet was respected. Quiet was powerful. Quiet was needed. I wasn't just useful here. I was valued. One morning, about 3 months after I started the job, I received a letter forwarded from my old company. No return address. Thin envelope. Inside was a single handwritten message. "I'm getting help. I don't know who I am without power. I hope you find peace. Serena." I stared at the letter for a long time. Not with fear. Not with anger. With reflection. People like Serena rarely apologize. They rarely even acknowledge the harm they cause. Her letter didn't erase what she did. It didn't undo the pain. But it did confirm something I had suspected. She wasn't a monster. She was broken. And broken people break others when they don't know how to handle their own fractures. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Not as a keepsake, but as a reminder of what unchecked power can do, and what quiet strength can overcome. Months passed, and something unexpected began happening. People started reaching out. Employees from other companies, whistleblowers, analysts, researchers, people who had been pushed aside, manipulated, or silenced. Word about my story had gotten around through ethics forums and training conferences. They wanted advice, support, someone who understood. So I created something small at first. An online space called Quiet Doesn't Mean Weak. A support network for people who'd been erased or underestimated in toxic workplaces. A place for sharing stories, connecting them with resources, and helping them rebuild. I didn't expect it to grow. But within 4 months, it had over 40,000 members. People from all over the world telling their stories. Finding solidarity. Finding courage. It became something bigger than revenge. It became purpose. My life settled into a peaceful rhythm. Morning tea on my balcony. Bike rides to the institute. Evening walks around the lake. Quiet weekends spent reading, sketching, or volunteering for digital safety workshops. I found a new apartment, bright, airy, with tall windows and a view of the city lights twinkling at dusk. A fresh start. My friends said I seemed lighter. Brighter. More myself. Maybe I did. Because I no longer lived in reaction to someone else's cruelty. I lived in alignment with my own strength. And that, in itself, was the sweetest revenge. Sometimes, late at night, I think about Raina. Not often. Just enough to appreciate how far I've come. If I could speak to her now, not out of bitterness, but clarity, I'd say, "You didn't break me. You revealed me." And I hope one day you find a version of yourself that doesn't rely on destroying others. Some stories end loudly, with courtroom battles or dramatic confrontations. Mine didn't. Mine ended quietly. With truth, peace, growth, and a life rebuilt in my own image. The best kind of justice. If you've ever been underestimated. If someone has tried to erase you. If you've been betrayed, manipulated, or pushed into silence. This story is for you. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to scream to be heard. And you don't need to destroy someone to win. Sometimes the strongest revenge is simply this. Becoming someone they can never control. Someone they can never break. Someone who rises quietly but undeniably. Drop your own stories in the comments below. Someone out there might need to hear what you survived. And if you're new here, subscribe to Revenge with Raina for more stories of quiet power, justice served, and starting over on your own terms. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And your quiet strength? It's your superpower.